am joined by Lynn Tillman-Cherry. She's the Chief Compliance Officer of Greenwood. That is a mobile application digital banking platform for Black and Latino communities in particular. Welcome in, Lynn. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Adrienne, for having me on the show.
Yes, so Lynn, you're a payments industry veteran. You've also really have been a fintech leader, and you have a great hold on this industry in particular. So why is Greenwood necessary?
Well, it's no secret that the Black and Latino communities have been underserved by traditional banks. While they have been allowed to open bank accounts, the Black and Latino communities are more likely to be turned down for loans. They are more likely to pay higher fees for their bank account, not because the bank is necessarily charging them more, but because they are not as educated on finances and the use of the services to their advantages.
Now, do you think it's a lack of education, or do you also think in part that there is almost a predatory mindset to a certain extent when it comes to banking, as we see in the mortgage industry, as well as when it comes to getting loans, that we see that there's effects. We've seen redlining and all sorts of industries that have really held back BIPOC communities.
That is true. There's no denying that there has been predatory lending. I think from a consumer compliance standpoint, those things have gotten better. But when we go back to the core of the Black and Latino communities, they have not been educated from young age to older on how to manage their money, how to generate wealth with the money they do earn. And then within their communities, there's not a Black-owned bank on every corner that they can go and visit and get the specialized services that they need.
I definitely agree with you in terms of there not being a Black-owned bank on every corner, as we saw, with Black Wall Street being taken out. And we've also seen over the years that essentially white supremacy has held Black and brown communities back when it comes to continuing to advance for finances. I guess my only issue when it comes to education, just in part because it seems that there are plenty of things out there, and there are plenty of educated Black and brown people, and the resources are there for the knowledge, but it seems that there's more institutional racism that seems to be holding them back. So I would just love for you to expound upon why you think that the education isn't there.
Yeah, so in my experience, I don't see a lot of Black and brown folks in banking, for one. Yes, there is education there, but being in banking and financial services is not a career that's looked upon. It's not important to some people because they are basically living paycheck to paycheck. They think they don't have the wealth and the power to make decisions that matter in the community.
Now, is this something that it sounds like it's only based on your anecdotal experience? Is that accurate? Or do you have any research or studies to back that up?
So from the educational standpoint, no research or studies to back it up, but we know that Black and brown don't understand financial services to the extent our white counterparts do.
So you don't think that Black or brown people understand finances? That seems like a very broad statement, especially if you don't have any studies for it.
Well, in certain communities, we know that there is a lack of information about how to make the dollar work best for the person and their community.
And that would seem that would be across the board, not just something that is racially inclined, but maybe a class issue, not necessarily just a race issue. So it would seem almost racist to say that Black and brown people don't have the education to understand banking or money, which seems to be kind of the premise.
We're trying to uplift the community and give them more information about how to best use their financial services to their advantage. What we are trying to do is cause the recirculation of the Black and brown dollar in its own community. Black and brown spend trillions of dollars in the industries, around the world. And so they need to use that to build their own communities, such in the same manner that Greenwood existed and Black Wall Street existed. The dollar circulated 36 times before it left that community Today, the dollar circulates 1 to 2 times in the Black community. So we have to build up our Black-owned banks, our small businesses, medium to large Black businesses, and help bring our community back to the past where we were wealthy, well-doing, and thriving for ourselves.
Yes, I definitely agree with that. And I think that that is a great objective. And I think that's something that everyone would want to have Black citizens and brown citizens to feel empowered. I just think it's rather narrow-minded and also not necessarily backed up by research to say that it's a matter of a lack of education. And in addition to that, the thought that Black or brown people don't necessarily know how to invest as much as the fact that there are a lot of institutional limitations. But let's go ahead and move forward. And so I'd love to know about the Roots of Greenwood and what inspired its founders to go ahead and create this bank.
Sure. So Ambassador Andrew Young, Ryan Glover, and Killer Mike Render had a vision. They wanted to do something for their community that would uplift and bring the wealth and recirculation back into the community. So they founded Greenwood, which is based on a banking platform to offer best-in-class banking services, financial literacy, inspiring and engaging financial content, as well as services that are delivered in brick and mortar banks, but they want to do it digitally because that's the platform that our generation is familiar with and accustomed to.
All right, and also, where does the name Greenwood originate?
That originates from Tulsa, Oklahoma, the Greenwood district, which many years ago was burned down in a massacre in that area. This year actually commemorates the 100-year anniversary of that event. And so this Greenwood pays homage to that.
And I'm guessing that's why that the founders went ahead and named this banking enterprise Greenwood, which would be an admirable thing in order to effectuate that, especially since we know that the Tulsa, Oklahoma massacre, and we know based on the Black communities that were there that were thriving in terms of business and economy, Wall Street, however you want to say it, but they were making it happen. So I would assume that they definitely had the education and the knowledge. And so that is something that we've seen. And so it would be great to continue to have that flourishing aspect. But I guess if I can ask you in terms of being more politically inclined, with this new administration here, what changes would you expect when it comes to banking and BIPOC communities?
So I do see in this new administration more focus on consumer compliance. There is increased focus around risk in general because of cybersecurity breaches. COVID obviously has had a big impact financially on a lot of communities. And so this administration has a big job of bringing those things all together while maintaining the inclusiveness that we are trying to accomplish.
Yes, and inclusiveness is extremely important, especially when we're coming off of COVID, when we've seen so many Black and brown community members lose their lives. And so almost kind of banking would almost seem to have maybe a back seat. But it is important for a thriving economy and moving forward. And so I know that Greenwood has a number of partnerships that go on. So can you tell us a little bit about those?
Yes, I am not at liberty to discuss partners specifically, but I can tell you we are partnered with FDIC insured institutions to offer the deposit accounts and savings accounts. Those also will be shared, the deposits that are made into those accounts will be shared with minority deposit institutions, once again, with the mission of giving back to the community such that those banks have the money, the funds to loan out to Black and brown who want loans, car loans, mortgages, and et cetera.
All right, and can you tell us where they can find more information about Greenwood?
Yes, you can go to bankgreenwood.com. There is a wait list there. We plan to open the accounts in the first part of this year. So in a couple of months, we will be opening that up and folks will be able to apply for their accounts and get started.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us, Lynn. We really appreciate your efforts, and also Greenwood for sharing its opportunities for members of the BIPOC community. Thanks.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thanks for watching the Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.